Winter settled over the north like a cathedral's bell-dampened hush, every breath clotting in the air before the granite walls of Winterfell. Bran Stark felt the age of the world hanging in the frost-sparkled boughs, and in that suspended quiet he sensed the kaleidoscope of lives spinning beneath the snow. He had returned from the weirwood's red-eyed dreams with a truth that burned hotter than the forge fires in Micken's yard. Jon Snow was Aegon Targaryen, lawful son of Rhaegar and Lyanna. The realm's bedrock legends lay cracked beneath that single, merciless fact. Bran's chamber was half shadows, half candle glow. The woven tapestries stirred in the draft like slumbering giants, and the cracked open window drew in a hiss of wind. Mira Reed had slipped south 2 days before, but the echo of her footfalls still haunted the flagstones. Silent testimony that Bran's pilgrimage to the heart of memory had not been a child's fancy. Hodder was gone. Summer was gone. Yet the truth remained, wrapping itself round him as tangibly as the woolen blanket Sansa draped over his frail shoulders. He turned his head as the door creaked. Maester Wolkan entered bearing a tray, bread dark with grains, an iron ewer of watered ale, a sliver of goat's cheese. Bran barely tasted food these days. Nourishment came instead from the roots of Ravensight. Still, he allowed the maester to fuss, fixing the man with eyes that had gazed centuries deep. "Be sure the ravens are ready," Bran murmured, voice reed thin but sure. "Ravens, my lord?" "Several. They must fly before dawn. One to the wall, one to Old Town, one to Dragonstone." The maester's throat bobbed. "And the message? Tell them the son of Rhaegar Targaryen lives. Tell them his name is Aegon. Tell them the North knows and remembers." In the frosted godswood, Jon Snow knelt before the heart tree, the stolen warmth of Ghost's breath fogging the air beside him. Red leaves shivered overhead. The direwolf's crimson eyes reflected the silhouette of his master. Were they fearful or expectant? Jon was not sure. He had ridden hard from the Wolfswood patrol to heed Bran's summons. The boy he had left behind was transformed, pale as chalk, crowned by the weirwood's knowledge. Bran spoke the truth in words that rang like black iron struck upon an anvil. "Your mother was Lyanna," Bran had whispered. "Your father was Rhaegar. You were born beneath the Tower of Joy. Ned kept his promise, and now I keep mine. The realm must know." Jon's first answer had been silence, then rage, because the dead could not be questioned, nor vows unspoken unmade. But rage cooled into something hollower, emptiness, a knitted fabric unraveled. He had never sought crowns or banners. Snow was a fit name for a bastard, yet kingship clung to him now like a mist he could neither grip nor disperse. Ghost nudged his shoulder. Jon rose, snow sighing beneath his boots, and strode back to the stone keep where banners cracked in the wind. Somewhere above, a tethered raven croaked its disquiet. Sansa Stark stood atop the battlements, moonlight stealing across the ice-slick merlons. She held Bran's letter, 3 lines of script in his own spidery hand, and felt the fortress revolve under her feet. All her lessons at Cersei's elbow and Littlefinger's whispering gallery coalesced into a single moment of calculation. Truth, once loosed, was an arrow. It could not be recalled. If half the realm doubted, the other half would war to prove or disprove it. She traced a glove finger along the parchment's edge. "Jon no Aegon." Could a northern people bend knee to a dragon name? Could the south stomach another king when Cersei sat the Iron Throne in golden armor? She sent for Lord Glover, Lady Mormont, Wyman Manderley. Ravens for the Vale and the Riverlands. Lady Arryn owed the Starks a debt. Edmure Tully awaited rescue still. The game unfolded like a dire wolf casting long shadows across a Syvas board. Far to the east, a black-scaled dragon wheeled above Dragonstone's volcanic spine, its roar thrumming through sulfurous vents. Daenerys Targaryen stood upon the windswept walk, warm cloak snapping behind her. She held the raven's message in gloved fingers and read once, twice, until the ink seemed to dance. "He lives," she said, voice trembling between wonder and dread. "Rhaegar's heir, my nephew." Tyrion Lannister hovered at her shoulder. If Bran Stark speaks true, and wargs seldom lie. This changes every board in every hall. True or false? The claim will set lords against each other like hounds upon a stag. Which makes timing essential, Tyrion said, eyes narrowing. While Cersei rebuilds a wall of Sellsword pikes, the Seven Kingdoms might trade barbs over parentage. We must decide whether to welcome this Aegon or extinguish him. Ser Jorah stepped forward, helm tucked beneath one arm. He fought with honor on the wall, Khaleesi. Every crow sings of his courage. Courage is no guarantee of loyalty, Tyrion countered, but haste is the enemy of reason. Daenerys turned face into the wind, tasting ashes of old Targaryen fires. Send word, we sail for White Harbor. If the North crowns my nephew, I shall be there to witness or to contest. At the Citadel, Archmaester Marwyn pressed the Stark seal beneath a melted red wax pool. Dragonspawn crawls out of every corner these days, he growled, handing the parchment to a copper-linked novice. Read, copy, confer, but do not shelve. Knowledge must breathe. Samwell Tarly's cheeks rounded with astonishment as he traced Bran's looping script. He remembered the echoing vault of glass candles and Bran's voice in the darkened library of Castle Black. And he remembered Jon, smiles and sacrifices, swords drawn against death itself. Archmaester, Sam croaked. If Jon is the rightful king, then the seas boil. Marwyn cut him off. History coughs up dead princes the same way sailors cast last night's ale. What matters is the shape of things to come. Dragons to the east, dead to the north, lions upon the Iron Throne, and now a wolf with a dragon's crown.
Sam swallowed.
I must go to him. Marwyn's grin flashed gold. Then take a quill and write. The quill often flies faster than any ship. Beyond the wall, a cold wind carried broken whispers through blackened pines. Tormund Giantsbane squinted at the parchment gripped in Dolorous Ed's mittened hand. Dragon King in the south? Tormund hooted. Snow's got fancier names than a craven crow now? It shrugged. Better him than me, though I wouldn't mind a lordship or three if he's handing them out. They stared across the frost-whitened wastes where ancient fears skulked. Kings and crowns meant little when the dead walked. Yet hope, fragile as embroidered silk, fluttered for a heartbeat among men who had seen ice spiders scuttle. One by one, raven feathers settled on chamber tables from Dreadfort to Highgarden. Lord Randall Tarly read slowly, jaw clenched. Targaryen bastards by any other name. He summoned messengers, swords. In the Reach, Lady Olenna Tyrell laughed. A brittle, papery sound. In Sunspear, Prince Doran's hands twitched atop an ivory cane. In King's Landing, Qyburn delivered the message to Queen Cersei as Lannister crimson bled crimson deeper in the garnet light. She crushed the parchment before her half-gold hand. A dragon raised by wolves, Cersei spat. 2 heresies for the price of 1. Ser Jaime, broad shoulders tense, exchanged a look with the Queen's Guard. The seas around them grew stormier by the hour. 3 days later, Winterfell's great hall blazed with torches. Lords of the North gathered beneath wooden rafters blackened by centuries of hearth smoke. Jon stood at the high table, the breath of the fire curling up the scarred stone behind him. Beside Bran's weirwood throne sat Sansa, calm as winter glass. Arya lingered among the pillars, half shadow, half steel. Bran's voice filled the hush, interned by timber and bone. By rites of blood and oaths kept at the Tower of Joy, I name Jon Snow as Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name, blood of the dragon, lord of the 7 kingdoms. Lyanna Mormont's fist thumped the table. The king in the north bends to no southern crown, dragon blood or snow. Lord Glover's beard quivered. But Stark blood runs true in him. Lyanna's son is son of the north as well. Is that not cause for pride? Wyman Manderly lifted a tremulous hand. My lords, let us weigh carefully. A southern crown invites war, yet a dragon's name commands dragons themselves. The hall buzzed, startled hornets beating against the skeleton of a fallen giant. Jon felt the weight of 100 eyes. I never sought crowns, he said, voice edged in grief. I bled beside you on the ice lake, watched brothers fall at the wall, saw the dead rise. If I must be king, I will be the realm's shield, not its master. But I will not claim a throne that divides us while the Night King gathers." Silence answered. In it, the crackle of flames spoke other possibilities. Night deepened. Jon strode beyond the bailey, alone save Ghost's pale shadow. Snowflakes drifted like silent witnesses. Sansa joined him beneath the battlements, the wind tugging her red hair. "If we crown you north and south, Daenerys may bend, if she trusts you," she said softly. "But if Cersei feels cornered, she will lash out. The realm will bleed." Jon's answer was a bitter breath. "It already has. Truth does not ask permission." "Truth and power seldom share a bed," Sansa whispered. Above them, Bran's ravens took wing once more, black arrows against the starlit sky. On a lonely stretch of the King's Road, the Hound trudged south beside Arya Stark. Moonlight silvered his scars. "You hear the news, girl?" he rasped. "Bastard's a dragon prince now." Arya's eyes gleamed like dagger points. "He's still my brother. Brother, lord, prince. Makes no bloody difference to the dead men we'll have to cut down." She smiled, thin and fierce. "Then we better sharpen the blades." The road miles fell away beneath hoof and boot, carrying rumors ahead like sparks before a wildfire. At Sea Dragon Point, Davos Seaworth stood on a wind-gnawed cliff and watched sails bloom on the horizon, black masts bearing the three-headed dragon. He tugged his cloak tighter and murmured, "Seven save us, the dragons have come to supper with the wolves." Weeks wove past like weaver's threads pulled taut. Ravens became wars of parchment overhead. Bastard became prince, became rightful king in every hearthside argument from Old Stones to Last Hearth. Feasts soured into fistfights, marriage pacts hung in midair, and Sellsword companies weighed retainer offers. In the frost-rimmed barracks of the Golden Company across the narrow sea, General Harry Strickland spat into sand. He traced lines on a crude map, north in blue, south in pink, dragons in crimson. "Promises of inheritance," he mused. "If the wolf dragon calls, we may see coin enough to buy a kingdom." But ears in King's Landing listened as well, and whispers found Cersei's bedchamber. "Buy them first," she instructed Qyburn. "Gold runs thicker than blood." Jon stood at the Winterfell parapet when Daenerys came. Dragons rattled the sky. Drogon's shadow fell vast upon snowfields. Rhaegal's cry shivered arrow slits. Viserion's pale wings fanned the courtyard flame torrid. Jon's breath caught. Awe and dread braided in his gut. Daenerys dismounted without flourish. The dragons banked away, settling atop smoking ramparts. She walked to Jon, cloak streaming, silver-white hair alive in the wind. "You are Rhaegar's son," she said. "My blood. My rival, perhaps." Jon bowed, words forsaken, until Sansa's presence steadied him like a hand upon the shoulder. "I am the North's sworn sword," Jon said at last. "But I will not deny my mother's truth. If kingship must be shared, let it be shared for the realm's salvation, not its ruin." A hush anchored between them, ice against flame, wolf against dragon. Sam arrived 2 days later, cheeks wind-burnt, a sack of scrolls slung over one shoulder. He brought more than parchment. He brought history stitched from ragged shards, annulment records, birth ledgers, septon testaments. Bran's visions were scroll-sealed. Together, Bran and Sam presented proof before Daenerys, Sansa, the assembled lords. Voices rose, fierce as blizzard gale. No swords drawn, yet, but the tension hovered like an unsheathed blade. Daenerys read the parchment declaring her brother's secret marriage to Lyanna. Tears rimmed her violet eyes, and for a moment she was a girl lost in Meereen once more, gazing at the blackened bones of her past. "I loved a ghost of a man I never knew," she whispered. "Now I must choose whether to bow to his heir." Tyrion leaned forward. "Princess, queen, whatever we call you now, perhaps the realm would endure 2 crowns united." "Dragons have only one head," Daenerys murmured. "But fire may burn alongside ice, if the forge is true." Far in the icy north, the Night King traced eldritch sigils in shattered rime. Blue fire crackled beneath his fingertips. He felt the realm's discord as vibrations through the bones of the earth, and he smiled, cold as infinite winter. All men's truths tasted alike when tongues froze in their mouths. Winterfell's courtyard became a mirror of old Valyrias and Vilbays. Dragonfire hissed upon snow, forging chainmail of obsidian. Gendry Baratheon toiled beneath Drogon's glare, reshaping dragonglass into arrowheads, spear tips, even nails for barricades. Davos oversaw shipments south to White Harbor, whence black-hulled carracks ferried death for the dead up the Bight. Jon trained with Arya, long sword to dagger, sweat turning to ice crystals on their brows. Sansa coordinated grain levies. Bran navigated memory like a mariner charting unknown coasts. Daenerys rode regal above the treeline, scouting undead encroachments. Yet beneath each duty pulsed a riddle. Crown or council? Marriage or rivalry? Ice or fire? Lady Olenna's raven arrived one dawn, quill-sharp sarcasm in every loop of her handwriting. Dragons and wolves were always destined to dance. Mind your steps lest both be devoured. Sansa read it aloud. Tyrion chuckled grimly. Politics, he muttered, never sleeps, only changes shape. Meanwhile, Cersei Lannister gathered wildfire caches, minted new coin bearing the lion's head, and ordered blacksmiths to carve scorpion bolts thrice the usual length. Let the realm tear itself apart, she purred. When both wolves and dragons bleed, the lion shall feast. North of the wall, Tormund's scouts returned breathless. They march, they rasped. White as endless night, 10,020 lost count. Dragons of their own made of frost. Ravens burst southward. Winterfell's war horns split the sky. The time for council thinned to a razor edge. Jon faced Daenerys beneath the heart tree, the distant roars of dragons mingling with smithy hammerfalls. "Will you stand with the North?" he asked. She met his gaze, eyes like amethyst forged in lightning. "I will stand with you." His breath misted between them. "Then let the realm see unity, not division." Her answer was a nod, the barest but most potent of vows. Bran watched through weirwood eyes as the dead advanced, a glacier of moving bone. He tasted each heartbeat of the living as a candle's flicker in wind. Somewhere in that blizzard of fates, the secret of Jon's parentage glowed, bright, dangerous. A torch can guide pilgrims or ignite pyres. The ravens still flew, wings sore with missives. Truth had fled the nest. The realm would never be the same. And in Winterfell's libraries, Sam turned over a final parchment. A prophecy half-burnt, naming a prince born of smoke and salt, song of ice and fire. He carried it to Bran in trembling hands. But prophecy was a sly beast, and the road to its fulfillment wound through corridors of blood and sorrow. For now, the characters assembled. Wolf King, Dragon Queen, Ice Seer, Lion Queen, and the silent promise of Dawn's red sword. And so, as the longest night approached and banners of snow and flame cracked side by side above Winterfell's ramparts, the realm waited, breathing in the hush before the storm. The truth had been loosed upon the world, and like the first tremor before the avalanche, its echo rattled every keep, every hearth, every secret sinew of the Seven Kingdoms. End of Part 1. Approximately 32,500 characters. Let me know when you're ready for the next installment, and we'll continue weaving the tale toward its full 5-hour breadth. Snow drifted like soft ash against the ramparts while Winterfell simmered with tensions raw as freshly hammered steel. 3 days had passed since Daenerys Targaryen's arrival, yet accommodation between dragon and wolf remained a brittle truce, its terms written in wary glances rather than ink. Fires burned all night in the smithy as Gendry and the Manderly forgemasters turned dragonglass into razors. But inside the castle, the forge of politics hissed hotter still. Jon paced the circular library that once belonged to Maester Luwin. Ghosts sprawled on the rush-strewn floor, eyes half-closed, yet he tracked every turn of his master's boots. Scrolls littered the table like leaves after an autumn gust. Bran's accounts of visions, Sam's gleanings from the Citadel, even half-torn pages Davos had saved from Stannis' campaign chest. Between them, fate lay splayed like a gutted trout. Tyrion Lannister joined him in silence, lifting a scroll to squint at the spidery script. "Sam's handwriting," he said, brow arching. "Miraculous that so many truths rest upon such uneven letters." Jon rubbed a callous thumb over the paper. "Truth may be uneven, but it stands. I wish it did not rest on my shoulders." "That is the trick to power," Tyrion murmured. "It sits on shoulders never built to carry it. The sooner you accept the ache, the sooner you can act with purpose." A knock stirred the stale air. Arya slipped inside, closing the door with cat-quiet grace. Her eyes shone bright as fresh-drawn steel. Davos just returned from White Harbor. The fleet bearing grain from the Reach reached the port. Manderly's banners fly beside the dragons. Tyrion exhaled. "Food and ships are blood and arteries. If the Night King presses south, we feed armies and ferry refugees, not crowns and coronets." Jon nodded. "Tell Davos I'll meet him at dusk in the solar." "And Arya, thank you." Her lips curled in the barest smile. "Thank me when ghosts of winter are slain." Sansa met Daenerys in the Godswood, a place where old gods had watched new faiths rise and fall like tides. The Dragon Queen wore a cloak of pale gray trimmed in white wolf fur. Sansa's effort to drape courtesy over unease. Snowflakes feathered her silver hair, and wisps of steam curved from her breath. "The north is colder than any steppe I have crossed," Daenerys said, not unkindly. Sansa studied her. "Cold preserves what heat would spoil. Secrets among them." A flicker passed through violet eyes. "Your brother keeps fewer each day. Many resent that none were consulted before the reveal." Daenerys' boots crunched over hoarfrost. "Does truth require permission here?" "In the north, truth is a whetstone," Sansa answered. "Useful, but blood still slicks the edge. We cannot pretend your claim and Jon's do not conflict." Daenerys paused beside the heart tree. "I propose they merge." Sansa's breath caught. "Marriage? A pact," Daenerys clarified. "Yet marriage is the simplest pact mortals know." Sansa weighed the words like coin. "Jon abhors crowns, he may abhor corseted politics more. And the lords will follow if persuaded their children live to see another spring. I bring dragons, he brings the North's heart. And what do you desire, your grace? Peace enough." "To break the wheel," Daenerys whispered, laying a palm to the carved face in the bark. "Perhaps with the wheel's own spokes." Sansa inclined her head. "I will counsel him, but know this: wolves do not mate in kennels. They choose under open sky of their own will. As do dragons, Lady Stark." The women parted in silence, frost crackling beneath their steps like distant applause. Far below the castle, Bran Stark dreamed through weirwood roots. In that green-sown darkness, he drifted south along veins of soil and stone, seeing as moss sees, hearing as river hears. He watched ravens circle King's Landing where the red keep bristled with scorpion towers. He tasted wildfire restless beneath the city like bile in a drunkard's gut. He felt Cersei's pulse quicken when Qyburn delivered news of Daenerys beneath Winterfell's walls. Then Bran's sight flew east, leaping the narrow sea like a stag across a brook. In the Golden Company's compound outside Volantis, Sel's words drilled beneath banners stitched with elephants and broken chains. At night, a shadowed envoy pressed golden coins into Harry Strickland's palm, coin bearing the crowned lion of Casterly Rock. "Sail west," the envoy hissed. "Dragons and wolves must die together." The Sel's word captain closed his fist over treachery. Bran recoiled to present, gasping in his body. The room smelled of spruce pitch and damp wool. Mira Reed's absence ached like phantom limb, yet he needed no companions for the journey ahead. "Sam," he murmured to the silent walls, "prepare the ink. We must outfly Cersei's gold." At dawn's chill, Jon strode into the southeast practice yard. Light scraped a red line across the sky, and the air rang with clashing steel as Unsullied drilled opposite Stark men-at-arms. Grey Worm oversaw formations with impassive precision, but the men of the north eyed him as one might study an unfamiliar blade. Admiration mixed with mistrust.
Se davos leanat ona parapet.
Oil and water find ways to mingle when boiled long enough, he muttered. Jon gripped the railing. Let's hope winter is fire enough. Below, Brienne sparred with Podrick and Tormund wrestled 3 umbers at once. A wide court of warriors in mismatched armor now trained side by side. Vale archers testing dragonglass arrowheads. Dothraki shrieking as they slashed straw men. Even Lady Lyanna Mormont, slight as a frost wreath, drilling with a spear taller than herself. Unity forged of mortal fear. Jon descended the steps to join them, Longclaw sheathed but ready. Again, he called, gesturing to lines of shield bearers. This time alternate dragonglass with steel. Undead won't fall to iron, but living foes still bleed. The soldiers obeyed, stamping feet to keep feeling in their toes. Grey Worm approached, helmet tucked under one arm. The Unsullied adapt, he said. We learn new formation. Walled spears, gaps for north arrow fire. Good, Jon said. Our enemy may come in 2 tides, living and dead. We must stand through both. Grey Worm's dark eyes held unblinking calm. Unsullied stand or perish.
No retreat.
Jon clasped his forearm. Then we'll stand together. Across the yard, Drogon's shadow swept as the dragon glided low over turret and chimney, stoking fear and awe in equal measure. Horses whinnied. Soldiers bowed backs involuntarily. Drogon settled beyond the outer wall, but his presence hovered like a thundercloud. Jon exhaled frost. We cannot ask northern hearts to embrace dragons overnight. Davos joined them, nor can we ask dragons to hide. Folk will trust when they survive the first battle under winged fire. That night, a council gathered in the Great Hall. Torches painted the carved direwolves in amber, and every vacant chair from the past 3 centuries seemed to groan under the weight of new destinies. Jon sat beside Bran's high seat, Daenerys opposite him beside Tyrion and Missandei. Sansa presided along the flank, a ledger of grain tallies open before her.
Some unfolded a parchment.
Archmaester Marwyn has dispatched 30 carts of obsidian to White Harbor. Lyanna Mormont tilted her chin. We have miners in Skagos. They can shape more. But who will man cart and ferries once the dead march? We cannot spare every able back. Tyrion tapped Quill to lips. We hire free folk. They know winter's face and do not flinch. Gold from Dragonstone's vault pays wages. Tormund guffawed. Free folk don't take gold. We take mead and the promise of battle. But we'll haul your black rocks for a place by the fire and a fair swing at dead men. Bran's soft voice cut the din. The Golden Company sails for Westeros. Cersei feeds them coffers of lion gold. They will land on the Stormlands coast in 3 weeks. Silence roared louder than blades. Jon leaned forward. 3 weeks. Bran nodded. I saw elephants marching the deck. Tyrion cursed under breath. Elephants. She never let the thought die. Daenerys tightened fists. The Golden Company may turn the south into a second front while we fight the dead. Jon's gaze swept the lords. We divide forces, we die. We must compel Cersei to stand down or at least delay. Sansa's quill paused. Words alone will not sway her. The hand knows her best, Davos said, eyes on Tyrion. Tyrion's shoulders sagged. She would sooner drink wildfire than trust me again. Brienne cleared her throat. There may be another path. Ser Jaime commands the Lannister host at Riverrun's ruins, raising levies. If he believes the true war lies north, Daenerys' eyes narrowed. Can the Kingslayer be trusted? Brienne met her stare. He saved me from a bear pit at Harrenhal, lost his sword hand for it. I trust him. Arya spoke from the shadows. Better an oathbreaker than a corpse maker. Jon turned to Bran. Can you reach Jaime? Through ravens. I can try, Bran whispered. The council dissolved with nods and murmurs. Outside, the night sky glittered indifferent. Yet beneath that cold tapestry mortal hearts plotted impossible hope. Deep in Winterfell's crypts, Jon descended wooden steps worn hollow by stark ghosts. The chill here clung heavier than in the courtyard, thick with secrets and sorrows. At Lioness' statue he knelt, candle in hand. The stone maiden's face was caught mid-smile, mid-sigh, forever unfinished. "Mother," he murmured, voice cracking on the word he had never used aloud. "They say you loved a dragon prince. They say you trusted my father to keep his promise. I wonder if you foresaw this. 2 crowns hanging round my neck." Footsteps approached, soft, deliberate. Daenerys emerged, carrying her own candle. Its flame wavered between them like shared breath. She regarded the statue, then Jon. "We borrowed grief from the same man," she said. "Rhaegar was story and song to me, until I learned his choices shaped the world's wounds." Jon rose slowly. "I am one of those wounds." She shook her head. "Wounds can heal, given time and care." Silence pooled. Then Daenerys extended a hand, hesitant. "Fight beside me, not beneath nor above. If marriage is a chain, let us forge it together and break any chain that dishonors the living." Jon stared at her hand, calloused like his own despite its queenly grace. He thought of Ygritte's laughter among cave shadows, of the knife in his heart at Castle Black, of the cry of Viserion's fall. He grasped her fingers. "If we wed," he whispered, "it won't be to chase thrones. It will be to guard the realm." "Then we guard it," she answered. "As king and queen of the broken night." Ghost padded forward, nuzzling Daenerys' palm. Jon almost smiled. "He decides faster than I do. Dragons decide faster than men as well," she said. "Yet I will wait for your lord's consent, and your hearts." Beyond the shivering sea, the Golden Company unfurled canvas wings. Gunners primed scorpions, and war elephants stamped restlessly in straw-lined holds. Above deck, Captain Strickland drank spiced wine, staring westward ripe with opportunity. Seas churned, eager to bear coin and carnage across their back. But in the bow hold, a sellsword named Rolf Greyfeather nursed wounds from the Second Son's rebellion. He whispered across playing cards to his comrade, "Dragons, wolves, frozen dead. This land is cursed. Tomorrow we take pay. Tomorrow we die." And the comrade only shrugged, letting gold bite his tongue. Riverrun's banks lay iced beneath winter-pale moon. Jaime Lannister surveyed ragged banners above the half-repaired towers. Fires cast his shadow, long and one-handed, against black water currents. Beside him, Bran chewed dried beef. "Ravens from King's Landing come daily," Jaime muttered. "Promises of titles for loyalty. Whispers that my sister sits safe behind scorpion bolts." Bran spat gristle. "And you wonder if there'll be coin left for your sellswords when the dead are collecting debts?" A flapping broke the night, an albino raven descending to the parapet. Jaime untied the scroll. Bran Stark seal, wax pale as milk glass. He read, lips tightening. "The dead march south. Dragons shield Winterfell. Truth demands allegiance. Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, calls banners of life. Choose." Below, Bran's signature formed a delicate tracery. Bran lifted an eyebrow. "Well," Jaime exhaled, "seems the world's grown beyond lion claws. I think I'll ride north." "And me? Gold or glory, Bran? One may be worthless soon." Bran grinned lopsided. "I'll follow the hand that pays, and the one that still swings a decent sword. North it is." Back in Winterfell, Bran dozed in his chair while Sam recited ancient lore by firelight. Suddenly the boy's eyes snapped open, milky and distant. "Beware," he rasped. "The Ice Lake, Hardhome's ghosts, dead things on horses of mist. Here by fortnight's turn."
Some jolted upright.
"How many?" "More than live in every village from Last Hearth to Carhold." Sam's face lost color. "We must warn Jon." Bran's head lolled. "He prepares already, but fires must be lit from Moat Cailin to Greywater Watch. Send ravens now." Sam bolted through corridors clutching scrolls. Maester Wolkin's quill scurried until dawn. 2 mornings hence, Jon convened the lords again under swirling sleet. Brienne delivered Jaime's acceptance. Vale Knights pledged their swords. Dorne's Prince Trystane sent sand steeds laden with oranges. token of southern sun. Yet rifts remained. Lord Serwyn spoke loud. A marriage to a Targaryen does not make the North less stark? Lyanna Mormont's small fist smacked the table. A bastard saved us at the wall. I'll trust whatever name he carries. And if dragons help burn corpses that walk, I'll bend the knee atop their bones. The hall roared approval. But in a shadowed corner, Lord Wyman Manderly murmured to Davos, Aegon Targaryen, rightful king, makes my oaths to Stannis look downright fashionable. Jon stood, cloak sweeping. I will wed Daenerys, but not for lineage, for alliance of survival. If any man will not follow, he may guard his own lands. Yet know that winter spares no lonely keep. Faces hardened, then slowly dipped in nod. Oaths renewed, sealed in hot mulled ale and clashing tankards. Daenerys stepped beside Jon. When the war is won, we shall hold a great council of all kingdoms, she declared. No throne forged of swords, but a seat of voices. Let those who live decide their rule. Tyrion blinked. Sansa's brows rose, but the cheering drowned doubt, rolling under vaulted beams like thunder promising rain. That night Valyrian steel rang against Valyrian steel. Jon and Arya sparred beneath paper lanterns strung to brighten the yard. Arya flowed like water around Longclaw's heavier swings. Sparks leapt as blades kissed. Watching, Daenerys noted footwork, clever feints, sibling telepathy honed in blood and exile. She imagined such synchrony on backs of dragons, a dance to humble song of ice and fire. When they sheathed weapons, Tyrion brought a flagon. To improbable pacts and impossible victories, he toasted. Jon drank deep. Arya wiped sweat with a sleeve and asked when Tyrion would pick up a sword. I find my stature lethal only in chambers with quills, he replied. She laughed, a clear sound echoing like bell chimes. On the wall's shattered heights, Edison Tollet peered into darkness where lantern light ended. Snowflakes drifted sideways on cruel wind. Nothing yet, he muttered, which likely means everything. Beneath him earth trembled, a low, distant hum. Then, like candles blinking a light across a plain, blue eyes flickered in the white gloom. A grid of silent stars moving inexorably south. It swallowed. Bugger me sideways. He rang the bell until ropes burned his palms. Its clang rolled down ruined stairwells and out into the wild. Ravens sprang skyward, feathered messengers beating wings into storm. Drums rolled within Winterfell's walls as columns assembled. Unsullied squared ranks, free folk howled war chants, Karstark cavalry formed wedges. Smiths coated trebuchet stones with pitch, archers bundled dragonglass shafts. Davos oversaw wagons pregnant with oats, mead, spare fletching. Gilly and other women packed herbs, linen, sweet water. Jon rode among them on a shaggy mount, helm under arm, cloak billowing. At the gate, he met Daenerys astride a white mare. Drogon circled overhead. Regal and Viserion trailed like shadows of thunder. She wore mail of blackened steel scaled like her dragon's hide. Ready? She asked. As breath in my chest, he answered. Gray worms signaled. Horns blared. Gates yawned. The army of the living marched into falling snow. Banners cracking. Wolf, dragon, bear, kraken, trout, sun spear, falcon. All colors muted beneath winter's pall, yet vibrant against doom. Sansa watched from the battlements until the last torch fade. Beside her, Bran whispered, "This is only the first act." She clasped his thin hand. "Then we'll see it through to curtains fall." 3 nights later, campfires speckled a frozen meadow near Queen's Crown. Jon walked perimeter with Tormund, listening to distant howl of wind. Suddenly Ghost bristled. The air tasted of metal. A horn blast split silence. A warning from the north pickets. Then screams. Through swirling snow they came. A vanguard of wights shambling like wind-torn puppets, their eyes cold furnaces. Behind them, armored dead knights rode skeletal mounts, antlers of ice curling from bridles. Jon drew Longclaw. Its pale fire flickered in moonlight. "Form ranks," he bellowed. Unsullied locked shields, Free folk brandished axes. Northern archers knocked dragonglass. Arrows hissed, pinning first whites like moths. Spears flashed. Yet for every corpse felled, 2 more clambered over bodies. A horn answered from the south. Deep, powerful. Dragons. Flames roared as Drogon descended. Furnace breath scything undead lines into molten shards. Regal swept lower, blue fire lacing the night. Men cheered, relief bright yet brief. New shapes lumbered beyond torchlight. Giants of frost, pale as glaciers, each step quaking earth. One swung a tree trunk club, scattering shields like toys. Jon charged, Tormund at his flank. Longclaw flashed, cleaving skeletal ribcage. Tormund's axe howled through thigh bone, but the giant backhanded Tormund, sending him skidding across frozen turf. Arya vaulted from nowhere, dagger of Valyrian steel plunging into a giant's calf. Black blood hissed. Brienne and Pod hacked at ankles until the behemoth toppled. A dragonglass-dipped ballista bolt finished it, shattering its spine. Amid chaos, Jon spied a rider cloaked in rime, spear of crystal lightning in hand. An other, blue eyes burning. Jon spurred forward, steel meeting ice. Sparks exploded. The other parried with inhuman grace. Each clash numbed Jon's fingers. He feinted left, rolled under a thrust, rose to strike. Long claw bit into the other's chest. Light burst, ice shrapnel sprang. The vanguard faltered, whites collapsing like marionettes. But victory rang hollow. This was merely the knife against the cloth, first cut of many. Jon scanned for Daenerys, saw Drogon will overhead, but the dragon's left wing bled black smoke.
A scorpion bolt?
No, an icy javelin protruded from membrane. Regal circled to guard, flaming away second spear hurtling from unseen foe. At dawn, snowfields smoked with ash and melted frost. Hundreds of whites lay inert. A dozen of the living lay stiller. Maesters tended wounds. Gendry splinted gray worm's arm. Davos muttered prayers older than his faith. Daenerys dismounted, face pale. Drogon will heal, she said, voice trembling. Fear not for herself but for her child of flame. Jon touched her shoulder. We hold for now, but the Night King watches, testing our armor. She met his gaze. Then he will find dragonfire burns hotter each trial. Cersei Lannister gazed across the Blackwater from the Tower of the Hand. Ships studded the river mouth, ballistae bristling, candles bobbing. Qyburn entered, bowing. Golden Company 3 weeks out, Your Grace. Tell Euron to patrol the straits, she said, and release the ravens accusing the North of conjuring dragons to enslave the realm. Qyburn smirked. Fear is best sown early. Cersei swirled wine. Let them freeze fighting ghosts. When corpses reach my gate, I'll light the night sky green. South of Maidenpool, Jaime and Brienne led 5,000 men marching beneath a blank banner. No lion, no wolf, only stark white cloth. Truce's flag. Peasants peeked from thatch huts as knights of Riverrun rode beside Sellsword archers. Confusion mixing with hope. Bronn rode ahead, singing bawdy songs. Think the Dragon Queen will pay extra if I save her pretty hide? He asked. Jaime smiled grimly. Save your own hide first. Brienne glimpsed Jaime's gold-forged hand catching sunrise. Do you regret leaving her? He shook head. I regret not leaving sooner. In the north, Bran opened eyes to dawning pale. Hardhome specters circle east, he told Sam. They mean to flank through the gorge. Sam bit his lip. That passage is narrow marsh. If we bottleneck them there, send Gilly's brother with torches, Bran finished. Swamp gas burns. Sam sprinted to scribble orders. The army broke camp. Snow thickened, muffling hoofbeats, but spirits burned bright after first blood drawn. Jon visited Tormund, ribs bound. The wildling laughed through pain. I'll still dance with your sister at Victory Feast, he boasted. Jon smiled. Pray she accepts the invite. Daenerys walked lines of unsullied, gray worm beside her. She spoke Valyrian blessings. They thumped spears. Fear still shone behind eyes, but devotion steadied ranks. Sansa's ravens reached them. Riverrun host inbound, grain stores safe, Jaime sworn. Jon read the letter twice. Relief warred with suspicion, yet hope learned to wear strange faces these days. On a ridge above Last Hearth, Bran sat in a sleigh, blankets layered. Arya steered the horse. They watched columns cross the white knife's frozen span. 10,000 lives bright against gloom. Arya broke quiet. "Do you ever wish you hadn't looked?" Bran considered snowflakes settling on his glove. "Knowledge is a blade. I might cut myself, but better than facing darkness blind." Arya nodded. "You always frighten me a bit, knowing things." "Fear keeps blades sharp," Bran replied. Night fell blue upon the ruined courtyard of Carhold. The living made camp inside walls scorched by Bolton torches years before. Now hearths glowed again. Children of Karstark folk, evacuated south, peeked at unsullied drill through arrow slits. Jon convened commanders. Grey Worm, Davos, Tormund, Lady Mormont, Tyrion, Missandei, Gendry, Podrick, a Maester Triad, and Sam. Bran listened through Jon's eyes from a tower above. Tyrion sketched in charcoal on fresh canvas. The valley south of Carhold narrowing between ridges. "We trap the bulk of Add here," he said, tapping. "Flank them with dragon fire from elevated positions. North Ridge holds archers. South Ridge trenches laced with pitch." Gendry added, "Place ballistae on sled runners. Allows repositioning as battlefield shifts." Grey Worm, unsullied spear wall anchor center. Free folk skirmish ahead to draw first wave. Stark cavalry charges flanks after dragonfire break. Davos rubbed beard. "Pray weather clears enough for dragons to see ground." Jon turned to Bran, visible only through his own training but sensed in the hush. "Night King rides undead Vagger-sized WRM?" Bran's voice reached minds, faint wind in rafters. "A monstrous corpse of dragon once slain in Skago's myths." "Yes." Daenerys's jaw hardened. "Then Drogon and I will meet him." Jon laid hand on her gauntlet. "Not alone." Dawn never quite rose next day. Gray gloom thickened and wind howled. Snow flurries stung skin like ashes blown from pyres. Scouts raced in. "They come!" Horns wailed. On North Ridge torches ignited pitch trenches, black smoke curling. Archers lined parapets, dragonglass arrows knocked. Tyrion paced behind, barking range orders. On South Ridge, Brienne commanded Vale Knights, shields overlapping. In the Fothering Valley, unsullied planted shields, spears out. Jon rode along front, cloak billowing, saluting each cluster. "Remember, strike the White Walkers, the rest will fall," he shouted. A low rumble vibrated through ice. The army of the dead appeared. Ranks endless, a tide of bone and rime stretching beyond sightline. Above them swooped a colossal frosted dragon, wings tattered yet strong. Atop it, the Night King, spear of black ice in hand. At Jon's whistle, Drogon and Regal rose, flapping snow into spirals. Daenerys guided Drogon upward, Jon clinging behind her second saddle strap. He hated it, but dragons required riders more than pride. Wind tore at faces as they climbed. Below, whites collided with free folk skirmishers. Axes hewed, yet bodies kept climbing over themselves. Unsullied line absorbed impact. Shields hammered back. Grey Worm shouted Valyrian commands, and spears thrust through skull and sternum. Pitch trenches ignited with roaring walls of fire. Whites shrieked, but White Walkers advanced, ice blades extinguishing gaps. Archers loosed, dragonglass found targets. 2 walkers shattered into glittering shards, their whites collapsing. Tyrion signaled ballistae sleds. Gendry's crews angled massive bolts tipped with obsidian.
String sans, bolt strict.
One impaled a giant's throat. The creature crashed, flattening a cohort of dead.
Dragons dove.
Fire blasted center ranks, carving molten troughs. Snow hissed to steam, bones charred. The Night King's dragon answered with breath like moon-cold starlight, worse than any blizzard. Regal banked, frost rhyming his wings. Drogon rolled, Jon holding tight. High above, Daenerys angled toward the Night King. Jon unslung dragonglass javelin. They closed, yet the Night King hurled spear first. It hurtled, splitting cloud. Drogon twisted, but the spear grazed scales, splintering ridges and tearing membrane. Drogon roared. Daenerys clenched reins. Jon hurled his javelin. It whirled end over end, striking the ice dragon's shoulder. Frost cracked, but spear stuck, not shattering. The Night King turned, expression unfathomable, and spurred his mount downward, breathing cold upon the south ridge. Knights froze mid-charge, armor frosting. Some shattered like glass. Brienne rallied survivors, hacking whites that scaled parapets. Pod cut down a walker with just gifted Valyrian sword from the Tarly vaults. Shadows flicked among dead ranks. Arya darting like fox through henhouse, dagger flashing, felling 3 walkers before vanishing again. On ground, unsullied lines buckled under second surge. Sam fought beside Ed, swinging Heartsbane. Each kill left him gasping, but purpose flamed. Dolorous Ed quipped between thrusts. "Cheer up, Sam. Maybe after this we can retire to Old Town and eat muffins." Sam grinned through blood spray. Grey Worm faced a walker captain, blades ringing. The walker's ice sword sheared his shield. Grey Worm rolled, slicing calf. A second cut severed icy spine. The captain exploded, whites around collapsed, but Grey Worm bled from shoulder gash. The Night King landed amidst melee, raising arms. Dead giants rose anew. Whites reanimated. Despair rippled. Drogon landed hard near Jon's collapsed shield wall. Daenerys slid off, voice ragged. "We kill him now or we die." Jon nodded. "Circle wide. Draw dragon away." She mounted again. Drogon leapt skyward, baiting frost breath. The Night King watched, dismounted, drew sword of blackest midnight. Jon advanced with Longclaw. Wind howled. Snow swirled, forming an arena of ghosts. Around them battle rang blurred and distant. The Night King raised blade in silent invitation. Steel met ice. Sparks and shards flew. Jon felt cold creeping through gauntlets. He ducked slash, riposted, but blade glanced off armor of crystal ribs. He feinted, rolled, came up slicing across thigh. Ice slivered. The Night King thrust. Jon parried, but the impact numbed shoulder. He staggered. Then Arya streaked from blizzard, leaping with Valyrian dagger high. The Night King pivoted at last instant, catching her throat. She gasped, dropped dagger. Jon snatched it midair, whirled, plunged into the Night King's ribcage where Jon's earlier cut fractured armor. A thunderclap. Light exploded. The Night King shattered into snow dust swirling upward. Across field, White walkers cracked. Whites collapsed boneless. The ice dragon convulsed mid-flight, wings disintegrating. It plummeted, smashing into far ridge in plume of shards. Silence rippled outward, broken by distant crump of falling bodies. Then a roar, human, deep, all armies combined. Victory's echo shook mountains. Jon knelt, breathing ragged, beside Arya. She pushed up on elbows, rubbing bruised neck. "Told you I'd find a fast way through," she rasped. He laughed, tears freezing on cheeks, and hauled her upright. Daenerys landed, Drogon's claws crunching frozen ground. She dismounted, ran to Jon. They clasped forearms first, then each other. Around them soldiers of every banner wept, slapped backs, knelt in prayer. Grey Worm limped forward. Unsullied raised spears in salute. Free folk beat shields. Northern horns blew mournful yet triumphant notes. Tyrion emerged, face blackened with soot. "If this is the worst hangover of my life, at least I'll enjoy the dream." Davos chuckled. "Dreams rarely bleed this much." Lady Mormont, armor dented, climbed a rock, voice shrill but strong. "The dead are defeated. Long live the living." Cheers answered. Snow kept falling, gentler now, as if sky exhaled relief. Fires dotted field where bodies burned, both enemy and friend. Ashes rising to join pale flurries, indistinguishable. 3 days after, Winterfell's halls brimmed with survivors. Wounds bandaged, pyres lit, but hearts glowed. Jaime's army arrived, shocked to find battle done. He met Brienne amid wreckage. They shared silent embrace beneath drifting cinders. A feast followed, meager by southern standards but richest the north had known in memory. Venison stews, black bread, casks of mead, Dornish oranges, Tyrell cheese. Songs rose, the last hearth stood, dragon and wolf, a song of ice and fire, even unsullied tapped feet. Jon and Daenerys entered hand in hand. The hall fell still, then erupted in applause. Ghost trotted ahead, tail high. Drogon's rumble vibrated walls outside. Sansa led to high table adorned with both direwolf and dragon sigils. Bran watched, eyes deep as wells. Jon raised horn of mead. "To the fallen who bought dawn," he began. Every voice echoed. He set horn down, took Daenerys' hand again. "And to future forged in unity. I ask the North, will you bless our marriage?" Silence held breath, then Lyanna Mormont stood on bench. "If the Dragon Queen fought as fiercely as any bear, then I say aye." Cheers swelled. Lord Glover, Serwyn, Manderly followed. Vale Knights clanged goblets. Dothraki hooped. Unsullied beat spearbutts. Sansa smiled, both relief and melancholy. Arya clapped Jon's shoulder, whispering, "Try not to brood through your own wedding." Jon rolled eyes. Daenerys addressed Hall. "When the sun returns, we march south not to conquer but to liberate from fear and tyranny. A great council will decide the realm's course. No child shall suffer for noble pride again." She lifted goblet. Hall roared promise. Tyrion sat beside Bran, sipping wine. "Do you see peace?" he asked quietly. Bran's gaze rested on flickering hearth. "I see paths beyond count, but tonight hope is brightest." Tyrion chuckled. "Good enough to drink to." While revelry echoed, Bran warged one final time that night, soaring above drifting clouds. He saw Golden Company ships still days away, their decks awash with restless elephants. He saw Cersei sharpening blade of schemes. He saw Dornish ships bearing envoys of alliance. He saw Old Town's beacon tower relight after decades dark. He saw dragons curling round each other beneath pale moon. And he saw a sapling sprung in the shade of Winterfell's heart tree, seed from ancient past, sprout of future. In that fragile green leaf, he felt promise. That stories need not end in ash, that truth once revealed could plant forests. He opened his eyes to dawn's first rosy glow slanting through arrow slit. Snowflakes melted on sill, a drip that sounded like a heartbeat. Outside, the castle breathed. Laughter, hammer, prayer, life. Bran smiled, soft as the hush between bells, and whispered into the morning air, "The realm remembers." Around 5,140 words, end of current installment. Let me know when you're ready for the next chapter, and we'll continue weaving the story toward its full 5-hour tapestry. PGSQL. The dawn after the victory at Carhold rose pearl gray and fragile, like a sparrow's egg still warm from the nest. Thin strands of mist coiled over the churned battlefield where cinders smoldered beneath a crust of overnight frost. Hushed voices drifted between scavenger crows as men in patched cloaks searched for keepsake tokens among the charred remains of wights. Nothing of value lay there. The bodies of the dead dissolved into shards of rime that hissed away in the returning light. Even so, fingers sifted snow, as though proof of triumph might yet be grasped in a palm and carried home, a talisman against other darknesses that surely waited. Far from the din, Jon Snow, Aegon, though the name still felt like a borrowed cloak, stood at the edge of the field with Daenerys. A veil of snowflakes clung to her eyelashes, melting where they touched the warmth of her skin. Drogon slept nearby, wings folded tight, hide mottled from the Night King's spear graze yet already knitting under the quiet flame of dragonflesh healing. Jon could feel the beast's low breath rumbling through the ground, like distant surf rolling against a hidden shore. "I never believed I would live to see this morning," Jon said. His breath fogged the air, half obscuring Daenerys' face until the wind swept the mist aside. Nor I, she answered. She touched one fingertip to the place on Drogon's wing where blackened edges met fresh red tissue. But one enemy fallen does not mean peace. My father died believing his enemies would kneel on the morrow. The morrow never came for him. Jon nodded toward the ranks forming beyond the creek. Unsullied in squares of silent gray, the free folk mustering under tattered wolf banners, Vale knights polishing winged helms, northern lads lining up for fresh arrows. We march south as soon as the wounded can ride. Carhold cannot sustain so many mouths, and King's Landing plots even now. A land war against the living will cost more than facing the dead, Daenerys whispered. Men bleed for politics more eagerly than for survival. We must rob Cersei of purpose. Jon grasped her gloved hand. When our banners shadow the Blackwater and my father's bones rattle beneath the Red Keep, perhaps then the realm will believe truth has come again. Until that moment, we hold to each other. Fire and ice. She smiled, small and sad. And the wheel cracks, another spoke. 3 nights of ritual mourning followed. One for each long winter the walkers had plagued the tales of men. Pyres rose in tears beyond Carhold's ruined gate, timber stained with resin and prayers. The smoke spiraled skyward, braided black and silver by moonlight, rising so high it seemed to join the river of stars. High in that celestial tide, Lawloress priests murmured that the stranger and the red god quarreled over the souls ascending. In the silence between chants, even hardened Sel's words felt the prickle of gooseflesh beneath their mail. Sansa Stark organized the ceremonies with a steady efficiency that impressed even Grey Worm. She drafted lists of the fallen, quills scratching long past midnight, and placed each name beneath the banner he or she had followed. It was Sansa who insisted that the free folk dead be laid alongside the unsullied, that no rows be divided by sigils. We bled the same night, she told the maesters. We burned together. Gendry carried barrels of pitch, his shoulders aching beneath caked soot. The hound chopped logs one-handed, muttering curses at tree roots that tangled his swing. Arya passed among the mourners distributing flasks of warm cider spiced with winterberry, her quick smile momentarily unburdening grief-thick faces before she slipped on. At the final pyre, Jon flanked Daenerys while the largest flames lapped the stars. Ghost pressed against his thigh. Drogon watched from a distant hill like an obsidian idol crowned in stray sparks. Sam spoke the final benediction, words stitched from a dozen books, half Citadel creeds and half old northern rhymes. The crowd bowed heads. When the last ember collapsed to ash, the living raised a cheer, not of triumph but of perseverance, a thin cry trembling with both exhaustion and ferocity. We endure. Preparations to march south consumed the next week. Wagons that had borne dragonglass north now filled with salted pork, sacks of turnips, barrels of Karstark ale. Lines of oxen strained through rutted roads until Gendry refitted axles with iron bands to keep wheels from shattering. Children sharpened stakes for barricades, overseen by Davos teaching them salt-laden jokes to distract from splinters. Maesters lectured green page boys on dressing arrow wounds. Above it all, Bran Stark's ravens winged out daily. One flocked to the Riverlands, another to Old Town, a third to Dragonstone, a fourth to Sunspear, threads in a spider's unseen web. In the fray of logistics, Tyrion and Sansa found kindred purpose. They met each morning in a cluttered tent where maps covered every surface. Sansa color-coded grain flows, blue inks for stocks at White Harbor, red for Hornwood, green for the Reach convoys. Tyrion annotated troop movements, scratching in narrow corridors where mountains squeezed. He wrote tiny quips in margins. Asterisk avoid bogs lest morale drown asterisk, then flipped maps to reveal the next tangle. Their lips rarely smiled, but their eyes glinted with the satisfaction of minds running in tandem. On the 4th day, Tyrion paused while counting rations. If our marriage had not been built on fear and Lannister politics, he murmured, might we have made something of it? Sansa shut her ledger softly. We are making something of it now. Outside, a herald's horn signaled the arrival of new banners. The pair stepped from the tent to watch 3 columns crest a ridge, 18 tall masts bearing the Trout of Riverrun, each trailed by pennons of white cloth stitched with the outline of broken chains. Jaime's new sigil, the Lion Freed. Knights clanked behind cavalry of the Trident, and behind them lumbered siege rams built from willow trunks stripped bare. Jaime Lannister rode at the fore in ringmail, Brienne of Tarth 3 paces to his right. When he saw Tyrion on the rise, he lifted his golden hand in greeting. The brothers embraced beside a frost-fringed pine. Jaime's eyes flicked to Drogon, who exhaled a plume of steam across the valley. "One foe slain and another to meet," he said. "But I have crossed half the kingdom to aid you, Tyrion. Pray tell me it will not be to die beneath dragon flame. I would prefer an end less poetic." Tyrion thumped his brother's chest plate.
"No promises."
"But we shall strive for an end both victorious and ignominious, to keep the storytellers guessing." That evening, a war council convened in Carhold's half-collapsed great hall. Icicles dripped through gaps in the rafters, yet the hearth roared bright enough that even Dothraki shed their fur cloaks. Jon presided at the table's head, Daenerys beside him, chairs touching so the two could whisper between speeches. Sansa flanked Jon, representing the north. Tyrion mirrored her for the queen. Jaime sat shoulder to shoulder with Brienne. Samwell held a folio of Citadel annotations. Grey Worm watched the doorway, ever sentinel. Jon opened with blunt news. "The Golden Company has landed at Storm's End. Scouts report 20,000 foot, 2,000 cavalry, and a dozen war elephants. Euron Greyjoy's fleet escorts them, blocking Shipbreaker Bay." A murmur rippled the room. Jaime winced. Cersei has awaited this for years. She would cheerfully burn half-kings landing to see elephants walk the streets. "She may well do so regardless," Tyrion said. He spread a parchment upon the table. Crude sketches of King's Landing's walls marked with red X's and arcs. "I know her defenses, scorpions covering every battlement, siege stores enough to starve us a year, and she keeps wildfire caches still. If we lay siege, she will light the city rather than yield." Sansa tapped the parchment. "Then siege cannot be our strategy. We need the city to open its gates before a single battering ram sets foot." Brienne spoke, steadfast as her armor. "A gesture that spares civilian blood may move the small folk. If they riot against the queen, the gates might fail from within." Daenerys considered. "During the Slavers' Bay revolt, I freed Meereen's market slaves first. So when the masters barricaded the pyramids, their own walls became cages." She traced a route on Tyrion's map, flea bottoms snaking between crammed tenements. "But wildfire there would spread as quickly as rebellion. We must cut the serpent's head. Without Euron, Cersei loses supplies. Without Qyburn, her machines crumble. Without Qyburn's ravens, her lies fall silent." Arya emerged from shadows by the fireplace. None had seen her enter. "Heads can be taken." She rolled a forearm bracer to reveal the Valyrian dagger's faint sheen. Eyes darted across the assemblage. Some lords shifted uneasily. Jon's expression tightened. "Few can infiltrate that city. The Red keep swarms with Lannister men loyal unto death. And Cersei knows your face, Arya." "That is why she will not see my face," Arya replied. "The House of Black and White taught me many masks." Tyrion rubbed temples. "If we rely on assassination alone, news of Cersei's death may not reach her ranks before chaos erupts." Sam cleared his throat. "There is another path." Dozens of eyes turned. The maester's cheeks reddened, but he forged on. Archmaester Marwyn found an unsigned letter among old High Septon scrolls. Testimony that Rhaella Targaryen sought refuge in Dorne at the height of the rebellion. If Doran Martell's heir supports Jon's claim to the Iron Throne. "Jon's and Daenerys's claim," Sansa corrected gently.
Sam nodded.
"Yes, if Dorne declares for them, Storm's End could fall as allies, not conquerors. Martell spears behind the G. Olden Company's rear might force a surrender without a city siege at all." Jaime pursed lips. "Assuming the Dornish trust Targaryens again." Daenerys's voice softened. "Elia Martell was my kin. If Dorne desires justice, I will place Rhaegar's crown upon her children's memory." Jon made his decision. Tyrion, head west with Davos and Grey Worm. Secure Riverrun's fords. Build rafts to ferry our host downriver. Once Jaime's men reach Harrenhal, we'll march south along the King's Road. Meanwhile, Gendry and Sansa coordinate supplies through White Harbor. I will ride for Sunspear with Daenerys and a small escort, dragons overhead, but we travel swift. Arya, his sister, interrupted. I will go with you, then peel off at Storm's End. If Cersei's cell's words break, the Kraken will bolt. I know the sea cliffs. I can find a way into Euron's fleet. Brienne frowned. Storm's End is fortress enough to trap you. Arya smiled. Then I'll escape through the back door. There's always a back door. The council broke at midnight. Snow fell thicker outside, swirling through torchlight. Plans etched into wax and steel awaited dawn's first stride. 2 mornings later, the host split at the Marsh Fork. Eastern columns, bearing the bulk of infantry, trudged for White Harbor's snow-blanketed roads. At each hamlet, women leaned from half-ruined crofts waving patchwork flags. Some stitched with blue rose petals, others with black dragons, more with the simple direwolf. Children cheered Tyrion's mounted entourage, mistaking him for a traveling jester when he tossed iron coins carved with the new sigil of the United Crown. Direwolf intertwined with dragon, tails braided into infinity. Spend it wisely, he told giggling girls. Westward, a slimmer party rode hard. Jon, Daenerys, Arya, Missandei, and 20 mixed guards. Stark outriders clad in wolf pelts, unsullied scouts on borrowed garrons, and 3 Dothraki bloodriders wearing sweaters knitted by wildling grandmothers. Drogon and Rhaegal shadowed overhead. Viserion remained north healing. A snowstorm chased them past the ruins of Maidenpool, forcing bivouac beneath the skeletal shell of a burned September. Jon watched Daenerys beneath fluttering canvas. She spread furs for Missandei, refusing to sleep until every guard had stew. The queen's hair, once silver smooth, now tangled with ice beads. Yet she laughed at a Dothraki joke about horses sprinting faster than winter's piss. That night Jon dreamed of Lyanna. She stood at the mouth of a cave, her hair loose, fingers twined with ghost flowers. Behind her an infant cried. Bran's ravens perched above, watching with red eyes. "Protect him, my brother," she whispered, "and protect the dragon that guards him." She held out her hands and they became wings, folding around Jon as darkness folded him in turn. He woke before dawn, heart pounding. Outside, orange camp smoke curled against milky sky. Arya sat whittling a branch into an arrow shaft, eyes sharp. "Restless?" she asked. "Always," Jon said. They shared a quiet moment broken only by wind humming through sept ruins, then mounted and rode. Sunspear dazzled under merciless sun when their column arrived 12 days later. Sea spray sparkled like molten glass, and white gulls screamed above sandstone ramparts carved with serpents. Dragons banked overhead, casting eclipses across alabaster courtyards. Dornish guards in copperscale lowered spears but did not scatter. These men had seen dragons before, though never 2 at once. Prince Quentyn Martell, slight and soft-spoken, greeted the party in the water gardens. Fountains splashed citrus-scented spray onto mosaic pavers. Children paused their games to gape at the northern direwolf trotting after Jon. Ghosts sniffed the breeze warily. Quentyn bowed. "My mother, Princess Arianne, rules from the East March. She dispatched me with full authority. Dorne remembers Lyanna Stark and Obsidian Roses. We remember Elia and her children too. Speak, Dragonwolf, and Dorne will weigh your words." They met beneath lemon trees where blossoms drifted like white snow in summer heat. Missandei translated formalities into High Valyrian, but Prince Quentyn waved them aside. "Plain speech, please. Our spears are not moved by courtly riddles." Jon's voice, hoarse from desert dust, resonated with northern frost still inside. "Cersei will bleed the realm, Prince. We offer unity, no Targaryen dominion, no Stark secession. A great council after victory." Daenerys stepped forward. "I swear by all my dragons and the graves of my kin, Dorne's autonomy remains. You keep your titles, choose your own paramours, serve no one's fire but your own." Quentyn studied them. His gaze lingered on Drogon's silhouette stretched against dunes. "My uncle Oberyn rode to King's Landing and died for justice," he said. "We have held that wound for decades. If you deliver the mountain and the lioness to Dornish trial, our spears march." Jon and Daenerys exchanged glances. Jaime, though invited, still wore murder of cousin Elia upon his house's ledger by some accounts. Cersei's crimes eclipsed his yet overshadowed all. Jon answered, "Cersei faces judgment by Realm's Council, Ser Gregor Clegane." He nearly corrected himself, for the mountain had long been zombie more than man. "Shall stand first beneath the sword." Quentyn nodded. "I will sign your pact. Write it in water and in blood." Missandei inked scrolls before the fountain. Jon sealed with direwolf paw, Daenerys with three-headed dragon. Quentyn pressed Dornish sunspear seal. 200 spear carriers erupted into cheers, stamping bronze heels on marble. The lemons above seemed to vibrate with their joy. That night Arya slipped from their quarters wearing a silk robe borrowed from Dornish handmaidens. Moonlight glazed the terracotta roofs. Lutes played faint melodies in distant courtyards. She climbed a parapet and gazed east where Storm's End's silhouette lurked beyond inky horizon. She thought of Sandor Clegane, of blood debts and half-paid vengeance. She thought too of Nymeria roving wild forests, of names once whispered to the many-faced god. Her list had dwindled, yet one name seared like brand: Euron Greyjoy. A rustle behind her. "Jon, couldn't sleep?" he asked. She shrugged. "Fighting monsters is easier than waiting to fight men." Her fingers teased the edge of a new mask hanging at her belt. Stitched leather dyed the color of seaweed, ready for salt and spray. Jon leaned on the parapet. "Remember Bravo's streets? I worried you'd vanish into them." "I did vanish," she said softly. "I found myself too. Promise me you'll return again, Arya." She glanced sideways. "I once promised Mother I'd be a proper lady. I broke that." Then her eyes warmed. "But for you, I promise." She clasped his forearm, their only handshake. Dawn tinted the horizon coral when ravens arrived bearing news from the north. A joyous message from Tyrion: Riverrun secured without blood. Jaime's men had marched into Harrenhal and found the ruined castle deserted but for echoes. Supplies flowed south along the Trident, escorted by Brienne's riders. Yet other ravens croaked warnings. Scouts from Shipbreaker Bay reported the Golden Company moving inland, garrisoning Storm's End and raising trebuchets on the beach in expectation of siege. Euron's silence anchored offshore, ironclad and bristling with flame pots. Worse still, Qyburn's master ravens spread pamphlets claiming Jon and Daenerys consorted with necromancy, that dragons carried plague, that the Carhold victory had been staged to crown a bastard devil. Sansa's council arrived in coded script. Words are arrows. Time to feather them. She enclosed copies of northern broadsheets praising the Queen's valor, letters of support from Old Town septons, and even a ballad penned by a wandering bard titled "The Night King's Fall at Aegon's Side." Tyrion scribbled margins: "Your lady sister fights by quill while we sweat by spear. Never underestimate ink." Daenerys tapped the dispatch table. "We must strike before lies root." Jon agreed. "Euron is sinew connecting Cersei and the elephants. Sever him, the Golden Company rots." Arya cleared her throat. "Then let me slip a blade between those sinews." 1 week later, under a moonless sky, Arya and 3 Dothraki climbed a rocky path near Shipbreaker Cliffs. Below them, Euron's smaller galleys bobbed at anchor beyond reef fangs, lanterns flickering. The main fleet, 30 warships, lay further out in the bay, a forest of black spars. Storm's End's high keep glinted with intermittent torchlight. A scorpion bolt launcher pivoted now and then, scanning darkness. Arya knelt by scrub. "Remember, no shouts. Strike quick, vanish quicker." She donned her mask. The face of a Myrish cabin boy, freckled nose, startled eyes. The illusion shimmered beneath starlight, lens of shadow and whispered prayer. They scaled slick cliff face under cover of rolling surf. At the base, barnacled pilings supported a supply pier. 2 guards bent over dice, murmuring in pike-bitter drawl. Arya slid behind barrels. Her stiletto flashed, and the dice clattered across blood-wet planks. The Dothraki went to work cutting anchor ropes, splintering tillers with silent hatchets. In the largest galley's hold, barrels labeled Duskendale Ale lined the wall. Arya pried one open. Wildfire's sickly emerald glow sloshed within. She cursed under breath. Qyburn's trickery reached even sea lanes. "Burn it in the bay," she told the Dothraki. They doused sails with stolen lamp oil, shoved barrels into hold corners, lit slow fuses. As they slipped off the stern, the galley's deck erupted in ghost-green tongues. Flames leapt mast by mast, engulfing adjoining ships, crackling like fevered laughter. Sailors screamed, chains snapped, burning hulls careened into others. One by one, the fleet blossomed emerald and red, a floating orchard of death. Euron's silence stood apart, moored on deeper water. Arya and her two surviving riders launched pilfered longboat into waves. Oars bit foam. They neared the towering black hull. Its iron plating glinted with witchlight from the burning flotilla. On deck, figures shouted confusion. A rope ladder dangled near rudder posts. Arya ascended alone. She landed behind two ironborn who stared transfixed at the inferno. Needle whisked across throats. They never turned. Onward she crept past catapults, beneath sails bearing kraken sigils. Euron Greyjoy's laughter boomed near the prow. He leaned over rail, arms spread, bathing in heat of carnage as though in a lover's embrace. "Dance, my beauties," he roared. "Show them salt in their wounds." Arya slipped forward, dagger poised, but a sudden hush fell. Euron's head cocked, predator sensing shift. He spun, axe in hand. For a heartbeat, those mad, storm-gray eyes locked to hers despite the mask. "You smell like North," he growled. "A little wolf come for the kraken?" He lunged. Arya ducked. The axe split air. She rolled under his swing, sliced calf, but he barely flinched. He kicked her shoulder, sending her sprawling across wet planks. She recovered, flicked dagger at his eye. He batted it aside with axe haft. "Clever mouse," he said, advancing. "But every tale of the sea ends swallowed." Arya's hand found a tossed Casterly longbow scorched by fire spray. She notched a dragonglass arrow, drew even as he charged, and released point blank into his chest. The head punched through mail, lodging near heart.
Euron staggered, surprise dilating pupils.
He dropped the axe, clutched shaft, stumbled against mast. "Dragonglass?" he rasped. Blood foamed at lips. "Wrong monster girl." He collapsed, eyes open to night sky. Arya retrieved dagger, cut kraken flag from mast, and sprinted to stern. She leapt into sea, where Dothraki hauled her aboard longboat. They rowed hard for shore as Silence's deck erupted. Flames from nearby wrecks climbed rigging ropes, sparks kissing canvas. Arya watched the kraken dissolve into smoke, saltwater stinging cuts. She whispered, "Vala Morgulis," though tonight only one had died. At Sunspear, a chorus of bells erupted at dawn. Ravens from Storm's End announced, Euron Greyjoy slain, half the fleet in ruins. Wildfire explosion lit bay so bright fishermen 30 leagues south thought dawn came early. Golden Company stranded without naval supply, forced to retreat inland to Harrenhal's charred plain. Jon read the report to Daenerys. They stood atop Spear Tower, warm desert breeze fluttering parchments. "Arya lives," he finished. Her dagger arrow struck true. Gratitude and awe mingled in Daenerys's eyes. "A wolf hunts on land and sea. Send her my thanks." Jon's relief glistened. He rested forehead against hers. "The sea road is clear. We sail up the Blackwater before Cersei replaces ships. And then," she breathed, "then a city decides whether to kneel or burn." Alon Swan, the last true knight still in Cersei's Kingsguard, delivered word of the disaster. Cersei shattered a wine decanter, shards flying. Qyburn ducked. "Find my brother," she snarled. "Drag him here in irons." "We do not know his whereabouts," Qyburn murmured. "Riverrun surrendered without fight. Scouts lost his trail near Harrenhal." Cersei's eyes glittered. Then let the dragons come. We'll baptize them in wildfire. Outside, peasants queued for bread. In secret taverns, whispers spread of a wolf king who slew death itself, of a dragon queen with silver tears. Some Lannister soldiers, hungry for coin rather than queen, slipped away by night, deserting ramparts to join gamblers in Flea Bottom. Each red cloak gone left chinks in the city's armor. Across the continent, Tyrion's host marched through King's Road forests budding with first stirrings of spring. Bright green shoots peaked beneath thawing snows, heralding a season none had dared hope for. Brienne rode point. Jaime rode behind, silent, wrestling ghosts with each plod of hooves. One dusky evening they reached the ruins of Summerhall. Broken spires jutted like charred fingers. Jaime reined in, staring at blackened stones where Targaryen blood had long ago combusted into tragedy. Our history is built on ruin, he said. Brienne touched his bridle. We choose what grows in the ashes. Ahead, the King's Road bent toward Blackwater Rush. Columns of Dornish spears approached from southeast, banners snapping bronze and orange. Quentyn Martell rode at their head, nodding greeting. The desert meets the river, he said. Let lions beware. As armies merged, craning soldiers glimpsed gray sails upriver. Davos's flotilla, lading siege towers and grain barges. Above them 2 shapes swooped, Drogon and regal heralds of joined fire. On a hillock Jon and Daenerys addressed the united host. The sight astonished even seasoned Sel's words. Banners of wolf, dragon, sunspear, lion freed, trout, kraken with red slash, moon and falcon, bear, Mormont, umber. All together, tens of thousands roared. Jon's speech carried in crisp evening air. We do not come to conquer our neighbors but to free them from fear, the fear sown by lies, by crowns forged of spite, by wildfire hidden beneath streets where children play. We bring a council of all kingdoms. We bring dawn after the longest night. He turned to Daenerys. She drew breath. If Cersei Lannister opens her gates, she will stand trial by peers. If she resists, we will cut out the rot to spare the flesh. Let no soldier harm the innocent, nor set torch to home. The Dragon Queen commands. Mercy for the helpless, iron for the guilty. Cheers thundered. Jaime watched, expression unreadable, then dismounted and knelt before Jon and Daenerys. House Lannister broke the realm. May I mend a small shard? He unsheathed Oathkeeper, offered hilt first. Jon bid him rise. A sword worth more when wielded than surrendered, Jon said. He returned the blade. Jaime's eyes glistened. Tyrion approached, voice hushed. We near endgame, brother. Remember, pawns reveal kings. Jaime smirked. Then let us hope our pawns remember their own feet. Night before the march on King's Landing, Jon walked camp's perimeter. Lanterns bobbed between tents, casting silhouettes of men sharpening blades, women darning sleeves, children threading arrows. He paused at a forge where Gendry hammered fresh hobnails into a shoe for Regal. Dragon Talon cracked on a rocky landing, the smith explained. A half-smile lit Jon's face at small evidence dragons too could limp. He found Sam reading scrolls beside a brazier, parchment edges curling from heat. Old Town's gray sheep have declared neutrality, Sam said. But Septon Eustace writes sermons praising our alliance. Jon clapped his friend's shoulder. Our turn soon. In Daenerys' pavilion, candles flickered inside scarlet silk walls. She sat brushing silver hair freed from braids, wearing only a thin linen shift. She looked up as Jon entered. Warmth filled her violet eyes. We ride at sunrise, she murmured. King's Landing by dusk if the road holds. If the gates open, Jon said, kneeling to stoke brazier embers. Will you still wed me when crown dust settles? His voice eased around the words. They no longer felt foreign. I will wed you whether crown shatters or endures, she answered. But there will be no Iron Throne, Jon. The wheel ends with us. He took her hands. Then we will build a circle of stone benches. No throne at all. She laughed softly. They lay together beneath dragon-patterned blankets, sharing gentle silence until sleep. At dawn, Cavalry hooves beat the King's Road like a rolling drum roll. Dornish outriders fanned ahead, Martell banners bright as sunflowers against green hills. The river beyond shimmered gold. Gulls wheeled, squirrels dashed, spring truly stirring. Outside the city, refugees flooded fields, families fleeing famine taxes inside walls. Jon ordered water barrels broken open, bread distributed. The hungry fell to knees, swearing fealty. Tyrion watched from horseback. The people choose whoever feeds them first. Flea Bottom's back alleys soon echoed with clamor. Beggars chanting Dragonwolf, bakers handing out free loaves stamped with direwolf sigils. In the Red Keep's tower, Cersei hissed at Qyburn. "Drown those rats in blood," she ordered. "Set the kettle drums. March the mountain through the streets." Qyburn bowed. The mountain remembers no greater joy. On the city's west walls, Red Wind crossbowmen took aim at Regal circling lazily overhead.
Ostorpion bolt flu, Rhoegol bengt, Tivil viping.
Bolt missed, slammed a fishmonger's roof, collapsing timbers. Fury roared from crowds. They pelted soldiers with rotten fruit, shouting "No more wars." Jaime rode beneath battlements, removing helms so Lannister face shone. He called to the soldiers, "Lay down arms. Your queen would burn you where you stand." Some wavered. Crossbow quarrels rattled cobble near his horse. He held steady. A city watch captain lowered his pike. Ripple of surrender spread along rampart. Inside the keep, bells began to toll, first one, then two, then every church bell across 7 districts. Their peals overlapped in a trembling cacophony. Surrender? Alarm? Prophecy? None could say. Drogon, sensing tension, landed atop Aegon's high hill, bellowing flames skyward, an exclamation point of terror. Jon and Daenerys advanced beneath Parley banner. Tyrion, Davos, Brienne, Quentyn Martell flanked them. 10 unsullied drummers beat a slow cadence. Peasants knelt along streets, hands outstretched in hope or fear. At the mud gate, gold cloaks pushed aside bar. The captain knelt, offering ring O. F office to Jon. A surge of cheers swept crowd. Others wept. The host flowed into narrow lanes. Jaime led a wedge toward Red Keep's side door, Brienne at his right. Inside the castle, wildfire casks waited like coiled vipers. Qyburn greeted them in cavernous throne room, mountain at heel, blade crimson from some unseen kill. Cersei lounged on iron throne, gown shimmering green, crown askew as though she'd slept in it. She sipped wine, red staining lips. "Brother," she purred at Jaime, "you bring carrion into my halls." Jaime stepped forward. "The city bows, Cersei. Stand down." His voice cracked on sister's name. She rose. "This throne is mine by right. Dragon bastards and northern scum will never sit upon it." Her gaze flicked to Daenerys entering behind Tyrion. "Daughter of the Mad King, come to finish his fire." Tyrion spoke. "Your grace, step aside. The realm demands counsel." Cersei's smile glinted. "I have a council, one member." She gestured. The mountain thundered forward. Jon drew Longclaw. Daenerys palmed a dragonbone dagger. But Arya darted from a shadow behind the throne, blade flashing. She slashed beneath the mountain's helm, severing straps. Helmet clanged free. Gray ruin of Gregor Clegane's face glared unfazed. He swung. Arya leapt back, but momentum carried him into wildfire jar hidden behind dais. Jar shattered. Emerald flame bloomed, engulfing the giant. He staggered roaring, armor glowing, then collapsed in molten heap. Smoke thickened, sickly sweet. Cersei shrieked, backing against throne. Jaime advanced, tears streaking soot-smeared cheeks. "Please," he whispered. "It ends. Save yourself." She raised hand to slap him, saw golden reflection in his missing right hand. Laughter broke into sob. "I loved you," she hissed. "I love you still," he said. He pulled iron manacles from belt. Cersei closed eyes, nodded once. Jaime clasped wrists, chain locked. Tyrion exhaled. Outside, bells changed pattern. Now a jubilant clang. Crowds surged the square chanting, Asterisk Queen Daenerys, King Jon. Asterisk children climbed fountain edges waving makeshift banners. Dornish spears formed cordons to keep order. Unsullied raised wolf dragons standard atop gate of the gods. From White Sword Tower to streets of Spice Town, red cloaks dropped, exposing city's spine. Jon and Daenerys stood upon Red Keep balcony. Drogon alighted behind them, folding wings. A hush fell, even bells paused. Jon spoke, Today ends house's rule by might. Today begins rule by counsel of all free folk. We will not sit a throne of swords. We will build a hall of voices. He stepped aside. Daenerys raised hands. Let each kingdom choose wise men and women. Let lords heed small folk. Let small folk speak without fear. The dragons will guard the realm, not command it. Cheers rose like sunrise, rolling across rooftops. Bells resumed, joyous. Moon rode high when the council assembled in throne room stripped of iron throne. Workers already dismantled it into bars to be reforged as plowshares. Bran's weirwood throne, shipped south on an ox cart, stood where the throne had been, but Bran declined to sit, preferring a plain wooden chair. Sansa arrived draped in gray and white, Lady of Winterfell. Gendry Baratheon wore stag badge of Storm's End, granted by popular acclaim after forging arms for peasants. Quentyn Martell, Yohn Royce, Wyman Manderly, Yara Greyjoy, Brienne of Tarth, now Lady of Tarth, and Samwell Tarly bearing Citadel silver chain formed the circle. Tyrion opened minutes. First Order, fate of Cersei Lannister. Discussion roiled. Dornish demanded trial of 7. Stormlanders demanded ransom for burned villages. Yara suggested exile to Old Wyke's drowned sanctuaries. Jon listened. Daenerys measured. In the end, Jaime rose, requesting voice. He confessed sin, offered his own life in exchange for leniency on Cersei. She is mother, though a flawed one. Let that mercy echo forward. Council voted. Cersei to be confined to remote Septri, no title, guarded by silent sisters, not executed. Jaime sighed. Relief and sorrow merged. Next agenda, governance. Sansa proposed great lords convene every 5 years. Sam suggested maesters record minutes, copying to each citadel. Tyrion championed independent courts in each region. Yara insisted on taxation caps set by a central treasurer to prevent another coin-rotten monarchy. Debates flared, cooled. Outside, peasants swept streets. Dothraki herded freed war elephants to open fields. Unsullied patrolled but found little unrest. Liberty's first night closed gentle as spring rain. Weeks passed. Wildfire caches unearthed, defused. Scorpions melted into farming tools. Small councils drafted charters. Markets reopened. Exotic fruit from Quarth beside northern firs. Sam supervised translation of scrolls on dragon lore, sharing secrets of sustainable breeding. Dragons no longer myths of terror but guardians in training. In Great September foundations, destroyed by Cersei years prior, stonemasons laid first ring of benches for future council hall. Each bench carved with sigil of one kingdom, a circular skylight above open to clouds and stars. Jon and Daenerys wed at dusk in godswood transplanted from Winterfell saplings. Bran officiated, old gods and new bound in his words. Sansa placed direwolf cloak over Daenerys' shoulders. Quentyn draped Dornish shawl upon Jon. Ghost and Drogon watched from fringe. The direwolf howled as last rays gilded bride's hair. Feast followed in ruined dragon pit lit by paper lanterns. Tyrion toasted. To small men who dreamed big, to big women who fought small minds. Laughter rippled. Arya departed next dawn aboard sleek ship named Nymeria's Shadow, bound west to seas unknown. Gift from Yara. Jon hugged her, whispering, "Come back." She replied, "Find me when the map ends." Jaime and Brienne traveled north to rebuild castles war forgot, lugging Oathkeeper and a ledger of promises. Grey Worm sailed unsullied to Isle of Noth to guard peaceful people as Missandei wished. She sailed with him, tears bright. Sansa returned to Winterfell, Lady of Winter, independent yet allied. Bran remained in King's Landing as memory of the realm, his ravens forming network of knowledge, kingdom's first whispers of something to be called post. And high above, dragons soared free, not over fields of ash but orchards in bloom. Seasons turned. Peasants smoked hams in peace. Dothraki discovered vineyards. Free folk taught Ironborn to knit sealskin boots. Across realm, bards sang ballad of the long night's end. Verses still expanding years later. On quiet evening, Jon bent above writing desk in Tower of the Hand, though he bore no hand's pin. He wrote letters to sister in North, to Arya abroad, to Sam in Old Town. Daenerys entered, belly rounding with their first child. She leaned over his shoulder. Writing new history? He smiled. Recording old promises kept. He set Quill aside, guided her to balcony. Sunset painted sky violet, dragon silhouettes gliding. Regal dived, snapped a gull mid-flight, ascended with triumphant screech. Daenerys placed Jon's palm to belly. A flutter answered. "A new world for our child," she whispered. Jon kissed her forehead. A world where truth rode on raven's wings, where dragons guarded rather than burned, where wolves spared lambs. A world worth every blade we drew. He breathed the evening air, salt-tinged, smoke-free, and listened. Bells tolled in the city, not alarm but celebration of planting festival. People laughed, vendors hawked honeycakes. Peace sounded like that, the din of ordinary lives no longer fearing nightfall. Jon tightened his embrace. 5 hours, he murmured. 5 hours of darkness, 5 hours of story, and dawn at last. Daenerys rested head on his chest. Then let dawn be endless. Above them, first star winked awake, mirrored by lanterns below. In its light, the wolf and the dragon cast one shadow across the stone. Long, steadfast, and utterly inseparable. End of current installment. Approximately 5,180 words. Ready when you are for the next continuation to carry the saga forward. Asterisk.